Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going deep into articles and podcasts about personal growth and well-being this week.
Lots to unpack. You've sent a mix of sources about handling setbacks, finding belonging, and even making your gut healthier.
Right, like this Optimal Living Daily article about two paths to belonging. Makes you think.
It does. It talks about choosing between fitting in or being yourself, vulnerability versus conformity.
So are we better off changing ourselves or letting the right people find us? It's
Yeah.
tricky. And it reminded me of that article from Mark and Angel Hack Life about regrets.
Yes. The one about things we wish we'd let go of sooner, like grudges or unhealthy relationships. Holding on can really block us.
Exactly. It's like these two articles are connected. If we're clinging to stuff, are we really free to be ourselves and find our tribe?
Great point. Letting go creates space for change, and maybe for embracing who we truly are.
So we're talking about letting go, being ourselves, and finding where we belong. Sounds like personal growth in a nutshell.
It does. But remember, growth isn't always smooth sailing. There are bumps. You even sent that Optimal Living Daily podcast with Chris Guillebeau about this.
Oh, right. About falling down and getting back up. What stuck with me was reframing failure as learning. Instead of fearing it, we can get curious about it.
Absolutely. The episode is all about resilience, bouncing back and adapting. That's what success is really about, not avoiding mistakes.
And speaking of adapting, there's that Optimal Living Daily piece on how small actions shape us. It's like we're not defined by big moments, but everyday choices.
Right. It's about consistency. Like Derek Sivers says in the article, each action is a vote for who you want to be.
Powerful stuff. So small steps in the right direction, not huge overhauls. Build those good habits one day at a time.
Exactly. And align those actions with your values and goals. Remember that blog post you sent from the Positive blog about achieving goals faster?
I do. It's about visualizing, creating a vision board to stay on track. It's like a personal growth roadmap.
Exactly. Seeing where you want to go and taking steps to get there. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need help on this journey. You even sent that Optimal Living Daily piece asking, is it time to seek mental health care?
Right. That's important.
Mm.
Personal growth isn't always easy. The article points out signs like sleep changes or withdrawing from others.
Yeah.
Things to watch for.
For sure. We need to normalize these conversations. Taking care of our mental health is just as important as our physical health.
Absolutely. And speaking of physical health, you sent those sources about gut health, like that Mind Body Green article about garbine fiber. It was new to me.
Interesting stuff. Garbine fiber can help your gut. Research suggests it might ease discomfort and help those good gut bacteria.
So a simple way to potentially improve our health. Makes you think about all the connections in our body.
It does. You even sent another Mind Body Green article about the gut and circadian rhythm. Turns out a messed up gut can affect your sleep.
Wow, our gut does way more than we realize. And you included this Mind Body Green piece titled, "This blood test could help diagnose anxiety years earlier."
Oh yeah, that one's a potential game changer. They've found links between certain things in our blood and anxiety. It could help identify risks way before symptoms show up.
Early intervention could be huge. It shows how our physical and mental health are intertwined.
Exactly. Well-being has many layers. It reminds me of that interconnectedness theme we talked about earlier.
Totally. Understanding those connections can be a key to a healthier and more fulfilling life.
It can. It pushes us to look deeper and see how everything influences our well-being. Plus, it shows that even small changes can ripple outward.
This has been insightful. We've covered so much, from letting go and being ourselves to gut health and sleep. It's all connected.
It has been great exploring this with you. You're clearly curious and engaged. That's fantastic. Before we move on to the next part, what has stood out to you the most so far? I think it's that idea of small, consistent actions. Whether it's healthy habits, personal growth, or even managing stress, those small steps really add up. It's empowering.
It is. We shape our own lives one small action at a time.
Exactly. And even when things are tough, we can always choose how to respond and take a step in the right direction, no matter how small.
Love that.
Yeah.
So we have the power, but it's about using it consistently. Well said.
We'll take a quick break and then dive into the next set of sources you've sent. You ready?
Absolutely. Bring on round two.
Before we pause, we were talking about those small, consistent actions. And, you sent some sources about taking action in different ways, like in business or for personal goals.
Yeah. Like this piece from Operation Melt called Call of the WH Wild, Mallory's expert-level goal-crushing secret. It's about this woman who got her degree and her secret, focusing on her why.
It shows how powerful motivation can be. If your why is strong enough, you can push through anything.
Totally. It's not just about the goal itself. It's about connecting it to your values, That's what
Yeah.
makes it stick.
Yeah.
And speaking of sticking with things, you sent that article from the Positive blog about stress management.
Right. Stress is everywhere, so we need healthy ways to cope. The article talks about mindfulness exercise and connecting with loved ones as good strategies.
Makes sense. Taking care of yourself is so important. It helps you show up better in every part of life, including work. Speaking of which, you also sent some interesting things about business and finance.
You did. Like those articles from Elaine Guillot. One was about avoiding the mistakes from that Capita data breach. Super relevant these days.
Data breaches are a big deal, so knowing how to protect ourselves is key. The article emphasized proactive cybersecurity,
Hmm.
being prepared.
Exactly. Strong systems and a proactive approach can stop breaches before they happen. That's the goal. And if a breach does happen, transparency is key.
Right. Being open and honest helps maintain trust.
Mm.
That's huge. Another one of Elaine Guillot's articles was about getting financing for your business to expand. Super helpful for entrepreneurs. It talked about different financing options and having a solid business plan.
Yeah, having a great idea isn't enough. You need to understand the money side of things to grow sustainably. And sometimes getting expert advice is the best move.
Definitely. There's always more to learn, especially with business and finance. You sent another article from Elaine Guillot about resolving debts quickly.
Oh, right, the one that talked about using a letter before going to court to try and settle things.
It's a smart move. Can save businesses time and money when dealing with unpaid bills. It's like encouraging a resolution without all the legal stuff.
It shows how important clear communication is. Be professional and document everything to avoid issues later on. And it's interesting how all these articles tie back to taking action.
I see that. Whether it's setting goals, protecting data, or resolving debts, being proactive makes a difference. And sometimes taking action means letting go. Remember that article about regrets from Mark and Angel Hack Life?
Yeah. Sometimes the best action is to release what's not working for you anymore. It could be grudges, bad habits, or even people. Letting go opens up space for something better.
It's like recognizing when something isn't serving you and having the courage to move on. It connects back to that idea of being your true self and finding your place.
It does. Sometimes letting go is the key to stepping into who you really are and creating a life that aligns with your values.
That's a powerful thought. Personal growth is about learning, adapting, and evolving. And sometimes that means holding on, and sometimes it means letting go.
It's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
between taking charge and going with the flow, trusting the process and knowing you're where you need to be. It's a journey. Before we wrap up this part, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how our surroundings affect our personal growth? We've talked about inner work, but does our environment matter too?
Such a good question. And you actually sent something about that, the Darius Foro article. What new skill are you learning right now? It's about constantly learning and pushing your boundaries.
Right. Stay curious, embrace challenges, and never stop learning. It's about stepping outside that comfort zone. That's where growth happens.
Absolutely. And I think that's where our environment comes into play. Being around people and experiences that support your growth is huge. It's like creating an ecosystem for positive change.
It makes a difference. Our environment can either lift us up or hold us back. If we're intentional about who and what we surround ourselves with, we create space for learning, creativity, and growth.
So it's not just about the inner work. It's about aligning our outer world with our goals, creating a synergy between the two to make things happen.
Exactly. We're not isolated. We're connected to everything around us. A supportive environment can help us unlock our full potential.
It's a great reminder that we have more power than we think. We can choose to create an environment that helps us grow, whether it's the people we're with, the books we read, or even the places we spend our time.
Love that. It's about taking ownership of our growth and realizing we can shape both our inner and outer worlds to support that evolution.
Mm.
Well, with that said, let's pause for a moment before we jump into the last part of our deep dive. There's still so much to explore.
Back again for the deep dive. We've covered a lot today, from personal growth to how our environment shapes us. It's been quite the journey.
It has. And you're clearly all in on this journey of growth. That's great. You've sent so many interesting sources about letting go, finding yourself, and finding where you belong. It's been great to unpack all of that with you.
I agree. One thing that keeps coming up for me is the power of those small, consistent actions. We don't need huge changes to make real progress. It's about those daily choices.
Right. It's the small steps that add up over time, whether it's building good habits, reaching goals, or just showing up authentically. Consistency makes a big difference.
Like those small actions become votes for the person we want to be.
Yeah,
And it's about trusting that process, celebrating those little wins along the way.
absolutely. It's easy to focus only on the big picture, but those small wins keep us motivated. And remember, growth isn't always perfect. There will be bumps in the road.
That's true.
Hmm.
But those challenges are often where the real learning happens. It's about getting back up and adapting. Remember that Optimal Living Daily episode about falling down and getting back up?
I do. It's all about reframing failure as a chance to learn. And sometimes we need support on this journey. You even sent that article asking, is it time to seek mental health care?
Sometimes we need a little help, and that's okay. The article pointed out signs we might need support, and that's important to be aware of for ourselves and for others.
It is. We need to normalize talking about mental health. Reaching out is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to that theme of interconnectedness.
Yeah.
We see it everywhere, from our gut health affecting our sleep to those small actions shaping who we are. It's all linked.
It really is. It makes you realize that even small choices can have big ripple effects. It's humbling and exciting at the same time.
For sure. It means we have the power to make a difference. And now we've reached the end of our deep dive today. It's been amazing to explore all these ideas with you.
The pleasure was all mine. Your enthusiasm for learning is contagious.
Before we sign off, though, I have one last thought for you. We've talked a lot about learning and growth for ourselves, but what about applying that to our relationships, too? Interesting. So instead of getting comfortable in our relationships, we approach them with that same curiosity and openness.
Exactly. Like, imagine seeing your relationships as opportunities to learn and grow together. It could lead to even deeper connections and more empathy.
I love that. So as you go forward with everything you've learned today, think about how you can bring that growth mindset to your relationships, too. It's about evolving together.
It is. Our relationships aren't static. They're always changing and growing just like us. That's something to remember. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into personal growth and well-being. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving.